I always look at it. If I spend $5,000 hypothetically on an event that I go to, if I get one thing out of that event, you know what? That's going to make you hundreds of thousands of dollars in your lifetime. So, and again, I kind of had to change my mindset and kind of my lens, if you will, on what you invest in. And that's, it's the same thing we talked about before. It's like, you're going to learn self-storage, you're going to learn, multifamily investing, single family investing, all that stuff. But every investment that you make gets you a step forward.
So you want to be a real estate investor, but where do you start? How do you know what information and sources to trust? That's where I come in. I'm Jonny Catani, and this is the Investor Relations Real Estate Podcast. Hey guys, real quick, before we start, go to investwithcatani.com and download my free ebook, Is Commercial Real Estate Recession Proof? Now to today's show. What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Investor Relations Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Jonny Catani, and I am joined today by Bob Lachance. Bob Lachance is the founder and CEO of premier virtual assistant staffing company, REVA Global. He played professional hockey for 8 years, 4 with the St. Louis Blues here in the States and 4 overseas in Europe. After his pro hockey career ended, he dove deep into the world of real estate and acquired his first flip in 2004. He has gone on to do over 1,000 transactions since then and has started multiple businesses, as well as helping to start one of the country's largest real estate education programs. Bob, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Absolutely.
Very excited to chat today. Before we get into REVA and everything you've done, which is funny because I'm going to make my assistant listen to this episode because we literally just talked like a week ago about kind of starting this thing. So anyway, obviously you played hockey. Did you know about real estate then? Kind of, tell us what got you into it and what led you where you're at now.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's so I played 8 years, like you stated a little earlier, and it's kind of funny. I went to Boston University for 4 years, got drafted by St. Louis, and I actually left 2 classes short of getting my degree. So it was either, so literally my mindset was they offered me, I think I'm dating myself now, but I think they offered me $110,000 signing bonus, which was big money back then. Now it's, a lot of people look at it as, why would you ever leave for $110,000? But left for $110,000 because they gave that to you as a little bonus. And then my mindset was always, hey, you could always go back. You could go back. Each summer went by, fast forward 1 year. Guess what I didn't do? Never went back. Another year, never went back. Another year. And then when it was time to retire, I actually just, I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, you know what? If I go back to school, I will have a fallback position. So I'm like, I did not want, and I'm one of those guys that I don't like a fallback position because for me, I like to be kind of trapped in a corner and I want to fight. And I know not everyone's like that. So I decided not to go back to school. And I did a lot of research on different industries that did not need a degree. Right. So obviously, guess what? Real estate investing has 0 barriers of entry, 0, which is the beautiful part of why we do what we do. So that's how I decided real estate and jumped in, did a flip first. I drove around neighborhoods. So what I did is I bought a couple of courses just to learn about real estate. Dude, Johnny, I knew nothing. Like, let's call it what it is. I knew nothing. And in today's day and age, I think people are really lucky that jump into real estate right now because there's so much free education out there that you could go on YouTube, you could go whatever, sign up for people's newsletters, et cetera, right? And learn self-storage, whatever you're learning, whether it's single family, multifamily, commercial, it doesn't matter, right? And there's coaching programs that are phenomenal out there that'll teach you, the things that, we had to learn by knocking on doors. That's what I did when I first started. I knocked on doors.
Wow.
So anyway, just so fast forward, that was in 2004. And then I just, I met a guy that we ended up being partners, started a couple of real estate education programs, did some short sales, through the years, 1,000+ transactions, started my virtual assistant company as well. And I also have a real estate investment company here, like we talked about before. Last year, we did 160 transactions on the investment side. And this year, we're looking to do a little over 200. And on the virtual assistant side, I know I'm kind of all over the place because they own multiple businesses. So I know we're going to hone in on a lot of that, but I have over about 1,000 virtual assistants right now and worldwide. So,
wow. Wow, that's incredible. I love that story because I also didn't graduate college. And
Love it. Love it. I'm
yes,
not saying that's a good thing, but
right. Well, listen, I'm biased. I don't think it's
yeah,
necessary, but certainly there are fields where it's necessary, right? You're not going to go
correct.
become a mechanic or an engineer, but I love that you just like straight up Googled careers that don't need it, and you found such a great one.
Yep.
So that's awesome. So what? So you primarily do flips still, or what's your primary focus there on that end?
So what we do on the real estate side, we do. So I'll just give you a kind of quick overview. We have our virtual assistant team generating leads for our acquisition team. So all of my virtual assistants are out of the Philippines. So I own a company that is. I live in Connecticut, but my team is out of the Philippines. So that's something. That's the structure that I have, and what I do is I use a lot of my virtual assistants to generate leads for my sales floor, which is literally through that wall over there. And their job is to gauge seller motivation and weed through all of the crap that I used to do. I used to do door knock. I used to cold call myself. I used to do all of that, skip trace to find phone numbers, right? Now, a lot of that stuff is automated to where you can hand it off to virtual assistants to do all of that work, because anyone listening to this, if anyone is, cold call or continue to cold call, you get beat up, you get worn down, and you don't do it consistently because you have a business to run. It's very, very difficult if you're the business owner doing those tasks because it's very tiring. So that's just a kind of a 2-second rundown of, what I have here in United States and over the Philippines.
Nice. Okay, I love that. So let's get into REVA. Like I said offline, I literally had this conversation with my VA about a week ago, 2 weeks ago. She mentors other VAs. So, right, already has her own little network of it. So when did you kind of come up with REVA and see a need for it?
Yeah, it's funny. So like I said, I was running a real estate education program, and going through, we had a fantastic team. So we started in 2007. Our buddies, Dan Merrill and Paul Asasian and Conrad, they owned a company called Fortune Builders, and they connected with myself and my business partner at the time, Pat, and said, "Hey, we want you to partner with us and actually create the coaching program behind the scenes." So Pat and I were tasked to create the coaching program and build from within. So we ended up building that up to a very sizable company from 0 coaches to, I think we were over 50, 60, 70 at the time at the peak, which I was tasked to do. And through those years since 2007 and running my own business, I realized that there was a huge need out there. And just like we talked about this before, the reason why you have a virtual assistant, you can only do so much. A lot of students, a lot of individuals that want to get into real estate are either working part-time or full-time to try to get into real estate. So one of the main themes I saw is that time was a huge factor, and they couldn't do the tasks that as a coach was giving them to do. So I would give them tasks, and I would have a call either each week or every other week. And they're like, "Bob, I got busy, man. Life got in the way. I couldn't cold call. I couldn't door knock. I couldn't text. I couldn't whatever, that homework assignment or action items that I would give them to do. They didn't have that time to do, or, posting on social media, whatever that was." So then a light bulb went on. I'm like, you know what? There's got to be something. There's got to be an industry out there. There's got to be a service, a product, something. And then fast forward. I mean, this is talking about, almost 10 years after, or let's go 7 years after, 2013. So 6 years after, I actually got introduced to what virtual assistants were. And I'm like, there's nothing out there in the real estate investor world. Agent world, it was more prevalent in the agent world. But I'm like, you know what? There's a business out there. I guarantee it. So I hired my first VA back in 2013. Then 2014, I started building my team just like you're talking about. Started building my team, and then I launched my first company in 2014. Tested it for 2 years to make sure, just like anything, it's got to be proof of concept, because when you run any business, let's call it what it is, 0 to a certain amount, you're losing money, right?
Yeah.
There's a ramp up in the VA world. It's no different, because you have your overhead, you got your support, you got your directors, you got all of that stuff. Same thing with real estate investments, call it what it is. You got your marketing costs, you got, maybe you're hiring someone local or you're hiring a VA, you have those costs. So it's the same concept, right? So that's what I did. And I looked at it, and so I launched it. After 2 years, we really, really kind of hit it hard. And then 2018, I had a partner that we split up. He ran his own company. I ran mine. So that's where REVA Global actually started in 2018. And now we've, gone from 0 to almost 1,000 virtual assistants today.
That's amazing. I love that so much. And I love that you saw that need and capitalized on it. Right. And that's that true entrepreneur spirit, because, I've identified a couple as well. Here I am getting into real estate. Obviously that's my main business, but I love that, like, you see something and you're like, okay, there's an opportunity here. So obviously these 1,000 VAs do all different kinds of things, I would imagine, right? Or is it kind of they can do it all? So kind of talk about, what needs you saw and what roles they can fill and all of that.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because you start looking at exactly what anyone could do. And the best thing I could say for anybody looking to get a virtual assistant, what I would do is, look at your calendar for 3 weeks, right? Just identify and write down, maybe a little tedious, but write down exactly what you do on a daily basis for 3 weeks. And you'll realize that after those 3 weeks, there's going to be tasks that you see that you're doing. And you're like, dude, I can't be doing this because they're $10 an hour tasks. If you're doing $10 an hour tasks, you have a $10 an hour bank account. Like, that's typically how that works. And that's not my quote. Actually, a good buddy of mine, Gary, actually gave me that quote. So I got to give him a shout out on that one.
Shout out, Gary.
I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, you know what? You are 100% right, because we start looking at what we do and where's our time best spent. Is it, picking up the phone? Is it calling? Is it setting appointments? It's not, right? It is actually, it's doing all the things, outsourcing. We should not be cold calling. We should not be text messaging. We should not be setting up direct mail. We should not be doing anything pay-per-click. We should not be following up, right? So a lot of tasks that I just said, those fall under right there, lead generation. And then, so if you want to kind of categorize things, you go lead generation, you got lead nurture. So lead nurture is following up, having somebody either email, phone, text, lead management, because, at least 70% of all deals, I mean, you could attest to this, right? Being in different kinds of areas of real estate, you typically never, ever, ever, ever close a deal in the first call. And I'm not saying that is 100% of the time, because that's not true. Right. We had a 12-minute close that made us a lot of money, but that's not the norm, right? It's typically on the lead nurture. It's about 70-80% of the deals that we get in our office. Like I said, we did 160 transactions last year, and this year we're looking to do another 200 on top of that. But majority, and probably, I actually did a webinar yesterday. I put a slide together that said 70% of all of our deals are from follow-up. And my buddy that actually did a podcast with, he said, that's probably low. And he's right. I think it's more 80, 85, 90% on the deals that we get are through follow-up. And it's between 5 to 8 touches at least.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. I don't know if you're seeing the same thing, right?
Well, I've been reading Russell Brunson, one of Russell Brunson's books, and he says that the average customer, it takes five touches before you get closed whatever business you're in. So that
in today's day and age, it's called what it is. Like, everyone's a real estate investor because it was easy. It was easy back in the day. Interest rates are going up, so they may change, right? But it is what it is, part of the game. But anyway, so then you have marketing tasks as well, administrative tasks like setting appointments, bookkeeping, inbound calling, skip tracing, list pulling, et cetera, et cetera. So that's just it. I know it's a high level overview, and I could send you, if anyone is interested, we could send over 100 task lists so they can look at that.
So what does it look like? Do you assign them one VA, or do they hire REVA and then you put a team? It sounds like it takes multiple people to, complete this whole process. So then do you just put a team in place for them, or how does that work?
Yep. Yeah, I'll give you the structure on what that looks like. So we offer part-time, full-time. So it's either 20 hours or 40 hours a week. So that's what we offer. There's other companies out there that may do, hourly, 10 hours, et cetera, et cetera. I found through trial and error on the management side, it's easier for me. And again, I know there's other people that, offer different stuff, but for me doing this, it's way easier to manage if you do part-time, full-time. Just keep it very standard and flat, right? And that's what I do. And I have a recruiting sourcing team over in the Philippines that consistently on a daily basis. We're driving, I think each month, and I could be wrong on how many applications, but it's hundreds and hundreds of applications, right? That we drive in per month. And so I have a team that's sifting through them, because this is one of the challenges that I know you went through and I went through on finding a virtual assistant. And that has to do with like sifting. There's only so much time we have in a day. I mean, even if you hire someone in your office, guess what? Looking through resumes is a pain in the butt, right?
Yeah.
And looking at it. And we also do predictive indexing. So we run them through, we do, systems checks, we do English proficiency, we do, we look at see and make sure they have enough backup on their computer. We do language proficiency checks, and then disc profiling, VA background check, et cetera, et cetera. So we do that just on the front end. And then we put them through a really intensive real estate training program. So it goes from, you go from your recruiting and sourcing to training, right? And these are all costs, just so and just so everyone sees kind of the business model behind it. I'm okay to share this stuff. You can ask me whatever question you have. I've been doing this for a long time, as you can tell. Like, it doesn't matter. It is what it is. If it's part of the game. So, and then we have our intensive, then we have a placements team. And our placements team is actually, it's kind of like Match.com, where they take your disc profile, and they, once we have our sales team sell an individual into our program, we match them up with the best VA that fits within the tasks that they need, right? So you start looking at disc profiling, it's pretty cool, or predictive indexing, it's pretty cool. So that team does that. Once a client picks a virtual assistant that fits them the best, then they're handed off to our operations team, and our operation team then manages. So there's what we call a client service manager that is on top of helping manage the relationship with the VA and the client. So it's pretty cool. That's just a little bit of what we do. We also offer VA benefit packages, things like that in the background. But that's just a little overview of kind of how my company's structured.
That's awesome. I love that. And is this for any real estate professional, I guess, so to speak? So doesn't necessarily have to be flipping and trying to make cold calls. It can be, operator with $100 million portfolio.
Correct. We have investors, we got wholesalers, we got builders, we got self-storage investors, we got, rehabbers, landlords, property manager, multifamily, short-term rentals, Airbnb individuals, lenders, brokers, et cetera, et cetera. So we have, that's what I call that's what I call real estate professionals underneath that bucket.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of what I was getting at with that term as well.
Yep.
Awesome. And so what has been the key to really being able to grow the team and scale it and create it for what it is now?
It's just like any business. And I can't remember who I was talking to the other day, but just like if you hire someone here, like we're growing here in the United States, here in Connecticut, we have our sales team, we're growing as well. It's all about people, right? You have to have the best people. For me personally, I've been very lucky to have an incredible team to find the right people, but it starts with culture, right? You got to have core values, you got to have a mission, you got to have a purpose, all that kind of cool stuff, right? But that is very, very, very important. I just came from a mastermind. We had a lot of conversations about, core values. And when I first started, I thought core values were kind of hokey. I'm like, oh, core values. But you know what? They're real, because you hire, you fire, and that's what you do with your core values. And you also, it creates your culture. So that culture side of it creates what happens in your office. It could be two people, it doesn't matter. You should always have, different types of core values like that, because it's really important. I know that's one of the things that you talk about as well, because it's important. But to answer your question, it has to do with, you have to have the right team, because you could be a lone wolf, but your ceiling is here. If you build a team, your ceiling is, through the roof. And that's a lot of times, especially newer investors, they kind of short-sighted on that, saying, well, I want the whole pie. And I'm like, dude, stop looking at it like that, man. Give away some slices, because in the end, it widens your network. Because if I give you a slice, guess what's going to happen? Next deal, you're going to bring me in. Next deal, you're going to bring the dude in that I introduce you to, or you introduce me. This is how the game works. And the more people, the bigger network you have, the more opportunity. We just talked about this before we got in a call. I got a great referral for you in the self-storage space. You know what I mean? It's a good buddy of mine, and I'll send you that information. You and I just met, right? So this is the cool part about real estate investing is our network is, you got LinkedIn, you got Facebook, you got all of that cool stuff. So yeah, I know I'm going off a tangent, but I think I answered the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, you really nailed it on the head, right? It's so important to grow our network and build our network. And like I said, when you said you have this contact, I said, worst case scenario, I've got a podcast guest. Sounds like he'll be a great guest. and just one more person in my network, and you never know.
Yep.
And that's also why I love this industry too, is it's a very like, hey, how can I add value to you first?
Give before you get. You nailed it. That's
Yep.
very important. I hope people that's a note that you got to take. Whoever's listening to this, you got to give for first. I agree.
And I try to be like that in my life as well. As my network has grown, I've had business coaches and CPAs and lawyers on. And so if anyone needs help in anything, I like to think there's someone in my network who I can introduce them to. And, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But at least, you're able to add value, and people remember that before they remember anything.
Yep. 100%. Agreed.
Yep. That's awesome. I love it. So that's an awesome, awesome company. Is there a lot of competition out there?
There is. I mean, there's companies. It's just like our real estate investing. Like there's a lot of companies out there. There's companies that, start up, the starry eye, and they're like, oh, well, I'm going to, do A, B, and C. And then, they fall off because just like any business, it's not easy to start and run a business. I don't know the statistic between how many businesses fail between 2 to 5 years, but I think it's like
way
80%
up there
or something.
Yeah,
it's way up there. Yeah. So that's very important to know, especially when you're trying to start a company out of this country. There's a lot of stuff about, different types of laws in different countries, how to get money over there, et cetera, et cetera. Like it's, you have to have a certain LLC. Like there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that a lot of people don't realize,
Did you have to make trips out there, or did you do everything virtually?
Yeah, no, so before COVID, I was probably out there 3 to 4 times a year.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, going back and forth. And so for me, I'm in Connecticut. So I literally fly over the North Pole. So if I drill a hole through the earth from Connecticut to the Philippines, it's literally right there.
No way.
So, yeah. So we actually drive to New York and I fly over the North Pole.
Wow.
This is how much of an idiot I am, right? I never even knew. First time I ever flew over the North Pole, I'm like, never even knew you could actually fly over the North Pole.
Oh my gosh.
It's because I've always, I played hockey in Europe and I've always went that way. And the last time, I went to Japan, I went California, overseas. So it's actually funny,
That's
you
awesome.
Learn something every year. You learn something every year.
Absolutely. That's amazing.
Maybe it was those 2 classes that I got out of school. That's what I missed.
See that? That was it. The last 2 that you needed to graduate, you would have known that you could fly over the North Pole. So maybe we shouldn't talk about not going to college.
I love it.
So everything all the way up to like directors are there.
Yep.
Is anyone part of the team here aside from like any business partners?
No business partners. Well, I own a company with my wife, so she started a medical division. And the medical division side is
nice.
Just another. I look at that as it's another line of business under REVA Global. But I have our marketing team here, Preston, who I have my marketing team, Preston, Amy, et cetera, and our bookkeepers. Well, we have bookkeeper VAs as well, but my accounting team here is in the United States, but everyone else is virtual.
Wow.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And here's the important part. It's, and the questions you're asking are very, very good questions, because I know a lot of people, they ask these questions. You're only as good as your team. And I do want to echo that. And it's really, really important. If you're looking to start any business, you got to have the right team members, and you got to make sure that they're team players. And I come from a hockey player background. And every time I look at it is I want to create a locker room. And I mean that in more the positive way, because in the locker room, everyone's got your back.
Yep.
Doesn't matter, right? I go for a shift in hockey that I know I'm going to make sure I take care of you, and this is why when I translate this into business, I always look at it as, I have 2 different businesses, and I'm on this podcast. I feel that, I run a real estate company as well, and I use my service. So I think it's very important. If anybody looks for any type of service or product, they look at what that individual or that company does. They should always use their product. And I think it's very important for me personally, to always run this successful company, to be able to actually talk about this company. I know a lot of people don't look at it that way, but for me personally, I used to speak on stage. I used to, sell a short sale course, and, this is back in, 07, 08, 09. But I think it was always important to run a business, just like you have a great podcast, you run a successful investment company, the different meetings. And I think it's really important that you do that and that I do that as well. So again, I know I'm kind of rambling, but I think I love it. An important point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I really couldn't agree more. And gosh, I can't remember. I think I was listening to a podcast. It might have also been in Russell Brunson's book, where he talks about how athletes typically make really good business leaders. For those listeners out there who were not athletes, this is not a blanket statement. You do not have to be a former athlete to be good in business. It's just that they typically excel at it because for the reasons you outlined, right? You understand the team concept, right? So you understand that it's not just about you. It's about a team.
We're dumb enough to fail too. We're dumb enough to fail.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think we all remember. I mean, of course you remember your big wins, but I can tell you, I remember a lot more losses than I do wins. Yeah. That's for sure.
Which is great.
That and the competition, right? You thrive on competition. And like you said, which I love, and I'm the same way, is you're like, I didn't want to back up. I want to be backed into the corner and have to fight and scratch and claw my way out. And now here you are. And there's something to be said about that. Now, again, it's not for everyone. Having a backup's not the worst thing.
Yeah, agree. I agree. I definitely.
But agree. I very much am the same way, and I kind of burned all bridges, so to speak, so that I could do this. So for that same reason, because I knew that in the back of my mind, it would just be that little tiny voice that said, "Well, you could always go do this,"
That's right. It's true, but like you said, just to anchor off of that, it's running your own business is not for anybody, not for everybody. Right. It's important to know that you could also work with a team and not be the business owner. There's nothing wrong with that. So if someone's starting to get into real estate, when I first got into real estate, I didn't own the company. I should I met a dude and his name was Pat Precourt. Met him and I walked up and I said, Pat, I'm not looking to be a business owner. I'm looking to join a team. I said, I'm not looking for a paycheck. I'll earn my own way in. Right. So that was my introduction into real estate investing, because my mindset was, you know what, I have to learn this game before, I'm going to start making money. But again, I was in a different spot. I put away, a little money while I played hockey, and I was able to not get paid for a year. Right. So I know not everyone's in that same position, but my point is you could join a team like yours, like mine, and make money throughout the time that you're learning. So that's just another way to look at it as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Huge proponent of that. Obviously the other part of that, which you do is coaching as well. If you have the money, then the coaching mentorship is 100% the route. I'm biased towards that, but I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone who didn't feel that way. I've had people say, I ignored mentoring in the beginning and it probably sent me back, 5-10 years.
Yep. And not every program's the right program. Let's call it what it is, because it's we all get sold into stuff that we bought. We're like, oh, but the one thing I do I want to highly recommend, whatever you invest in, you have to take action, because, I always look at it. If I spend $5,000 hypothetically on an event that I go to, if I get one thing out of that event, you know what? That's going to make you hundreds of thousands of dollars in your lifetime. So, and again, I kind of had to change my mindset and kind of my lens, if you will, on what you invest in. And that's, it's the same thing we talked about before. It's like, you're going to learn self-storage, you're going to learn, multifamily investing, single family investing, all that stuff. But every investment that you make gets you a step forward.
Absolutely. And that's kind of comes full circle to the school and everything as well, right? I've had guests on who have MBAs and they're like, I'm going to spend 3 times as much on personal development this year than I did on my whole MBA program, but it's focused education, right? You don't have all that extra stuff that you don't need, like, college generals and things like that. So, you're very
like anthropology, like not for nothing. So
no offense to any anthropologists out there.
Yeah, no offense, but I'm not going to go here. I live in Connecticut. Am I ever going to use that? Like, I'm not. But you have to take it as, some BS course, because, you just got to check a box. That's what you mean.
Yes,
And
correct.
I'm a
Exactly.
perfect example of that.
Perfect example. Anthropology. Oh, that's great. So what does the future look like for you? Going to keep all three going? Obviously kind of things changing economically here in the real estate side of things. So, what does maybe the next 2 years look like for you?
It's funny. I talked to my team there about, let's talk about real estate for a second. I think we have a great opportunity. If you have access to capital, usually when interest rates go up, the individuals that have access to capital will be getting the deals. So what I would do is I would recommend that everybody start building that capital reserve, whether it's yours or not. It could be private money lenders, hard money lenders, whatever that looks like. But I would spend time on that side of it. Like I told you, I'll put in touch with my buddy who used to be a banker, but he does a phenomenal job at raising money, right? So we do a very good job. What we're doing right now is we're storing away cash because we're in the time is really good to make money right now. And we're putting that money away because think about this, interest rates are going up, and interest rates go up, prices go down. It's just how the game works. It's very simple, right? It happens no matter what cycle it is. And who knows how high interest rates are going to go. But that's what happens because consumer confidence starts going down when interest rates go up, blah, 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 blah. We could talk about that forever, but it's very important. So the way I look at it is I think we have a very good opportunity in the next 2 years, even if interest rates go up, because, if interest rates start going up, this is all, nobody listen to me. I'm not an analyst. I'm not this is just my opinion, right? I think
did take anthropology though.
That's exactly right. Actually, I dropped out of it twice too. That's another story for another podcast. So anyway, think about this. And I think the next 2 years is going to be a very good opportunity for us because of those different reasons. But we're looking at it in a very positive lens. And if we do the right things, and we're going to end up very good when it starts turning again. We're going to go through a dip. I don't know if recession. I have no idea, but we are going to go through a correction, right? Whatever that looks like. But I think it's a very good opportunity for us. Instead of looking at it through a negative lens, I think it's a very positive lens for us.
Absolutely. If you're an investor, you are absolutely licking your chops right now because the opportunity is coming. And so many people highlight 2008 for, how horrible it was. And don't get me wrong, it was, right? I've had people on the show who lost everything all the way down, had a couple guests who went from $10 million net worth to negative $5 million net worth, seemingly overnight. But what you don't read about are the thousands of people who saw that as an opportunity and were buying up houses left and right and made a boatload of money from that dip, that recession. And I think what you're seeing now is because of that, you see so many people now seeing the warning signs, and some people, maybe got out a little early. I talked to one guy who thought it was going to happen in 2017, and he's kind of been sitting on the sidelines since then. So he's definitely missed out on some extra growth, but now he's set up in position, like a lot are, to as soon as that opportunity comes. And that's why I don't think it's going to be as nearly as bad of a recession, because I think you have a lot of capital just waiting on the sidelines. And as soon as that opportunity presents itself, it's going to flood into that opportunity and it's going to prop it right back up.
Yeah. And I think a lot of opportunities, to be honest with you, is the commercial world, because you have adjustable rate mortgages. People got in at if you're thinking about this, if your cap rate is 3 or 4 and your rate goes up, you're screwed. Let's call it what it is. It's just, people don't realize that. And a lot of individuals got into that were not real estate investors. Like, all right, I'm going to buy this 6-unit building at a 3 cap. I'm like, dude, you wait until the future, you're screwed. Like, that's just, kind of common sense. If you start looking at it, if there's any shift in a lot of the way commercial debt goes, that, right? There's no 30-year fixed mortgages, or, there probably was back in the day, but a lot of them actually reset, and they have to, the higher they go, a lot of them reset. And I think it's an opportunity. So keep an eye out for those. So investors, listen to this, keep an eye out for those, because I think you have a very good opportunity in the future.
Yeah, I've been talking about this recently, where you're going to have those people who really maybe didn't have the best strategy, or just have truly just been able to ride the market, and haven't really had to implement a true business strategy. And, so you're going to have over leverage. Like you said, you're going to have, some of these 5-year arms, even some of these 3-year are going to come up soon. Like you said, next 2 years is really going to be, they're going to be in over their head. And by no means are them and their investors going to get a loss. I don't think you're going to see like detrimental losses, but I just think you'll see like quick, like, hey, our rate's going up. We can't afford to take on the new rate.
Right.
Boom, sell,
Right. Yep. I agree.
And it's the opportunity.
Could be wrong, but I agree. I could be wrong. I don't know, but I agree. I mean, that's exactly how I'm looking at it. Same, exactly like you said.
People who make way more money than me and study this stuff have been saying the same thing. So I feel pretty confident that that's what's coming. But
me too. I agree.
These are also whatever, like we're seeing new variables that we've never seen before, right? Like the housing market is not leading it this time, right? You have a lot more on the consumer side, the supply chain side, which we've never seen before. So no one really knows because we haven't really seen this before.
Right. Agreed. And, we don't know, but this is just, like we said, this is our experience. This is what we think is going to happen. But I don't know. People that make more money than we do are saying the same thing. So.
For sure. People who actually took anthropology, went all the way through.
Actually finished the class and passed.
Finished the class.
Dropping out.
Yeah. Does MIT make you take classes like that or what? Some of those MIT grads, man, those analysts, holy cow. At that institutional level, PhD in mathematics and stuff like that is, those are the ones who are making these predictions and seeing these, and they have access to a lot more data than we do. And it's great and like you said, it's nice to be set up to where we can capitalize on the opportunity as opposed to, having to downsize or, whatever it may be, you're very much on the other side here.
And it's important. I mean, you run a podcast, so you get the privilege to be able to interview a lot of different guests, right? So it's cool that you see this stuff. I'm part of a bunch of masterminds, so I get to hobnob with some of the top investors in the country. So we have analysts that come in that speak at these masterminds. So you and I get to see things in a different light, which is pretty cool. So we sometimes are maybe one step ahead because of the investment that we do. You invest in your podcast, invest in mastermind, same with myself. So it's important to, anyone listen to this, you have to always do that because this does keep you, it keeps you a little bit, kind of in the know or ahead of what's going to happen.
Absolutely. And it's important to listen to people who are opportunistic, right? Who see what's coming and are not like, you run for the hills, stuff everything under the mattress, and are like, yes, interest rates are going up, but it's going to present, X, Y, and Z opportunity. Those are the ones you need to listen to because those are going to be where you're going to be pointed in the right direction for opportunity and not, the Wall Street Journal that basically, if you're reading, mainstream news right now, we're in a recession and everything's coming to an end.
Just stop reading. Just stop reading mainstream news. It drives me nuts sometimes. Like, that's another podcast. We could go off.
Honestly, I know. So I read these headlines that these people repost sometimes. And I'm like, did you even read the article? No, you didn't. No, you just read the headline.
I had this conversation the other day, literally the same one. You read the headline, has nothing to do with what's actually in the body of that. I'm like, come on. It's marketing 101. Like that's the problem. Everyone's like on social media, like, did you know the sky was falling? Or did you know this? Like, no, that's not really what's happening. Read the freaking article. It drives me nuts.
I know. And then they recite it back to you and you're like, yeah, right. They're like, well, interest rates are going up. I'm like, yes. Yeah. It doesn't really take, you don't need a PhD from MIT to know that. Like we can see it. But one thing I love is especially in real estate is there's always some variable that's not that you have to work around or work with, I should say. Right. So it's never easy. If it was, everybody would be doing it. So in this case, it just happens to be we're in a high interest rate environment and it's going to keep going up and getting higher for the foreseeable future, but there's always something that you have to work with and that's why conservative underwriting is important. And, different
Yeah,
things like
there's
that.
a lot of stuff. Like you said, there's a lot of stuff in real estate. That's why you need a team, just like we talked
Yep.
about. I mean, we went over a lot of tasks of what virtual assistants can do for you in any industry. So it's really important. And we could, like I said, we could share the 100 task list just to get people's minds going. But it's really important to make sure that you have the right team with you, because, right team could be one of your guests coming on as a podcast, right? That could be a new team member, right? It could be, someone from your mastermind, whatever it is, it's a team member. It doesn't have to be in your office. It could be virtual. So that's the important part. I think, people, if we start changing our lens a little bit that way, it opens the mind from the lone wolf kind of look on, you need to be the man or the woman who has the business owner. Like, who gives a crap if you're called CEO or founder or anything? I don't care.
So
I don't give a
titles
crap.
are so glorified nowadays anyway.
Dude, me too. I don't care.
Yeah.
I own a company. Good. Like, if they don't know who I am, that's better. And I have a successful company. Like, oh wow, REVA Global is great. Good. That's what I want. It's not saying, hey, Bob Lachance. Like, it doesn't matter about me or you. It has to do with, your brand, your name, and like how your company's run. That's the important part.
Yeah, this was a good analogy was given to me. Would you rather have a whole grape or a quarter of a watermelon?
It's good. I like it.
Right. Yep. So you'd rather have a quarter watermelon, and if you start thinking of things in percentages, when you have a percentage and you increase the amount you're taking the percentage of, that's going to equal more than you having the whole slice of the pie and not being able to move that quickly.
Yeah. Well, guess what? If you're in the desert, right? Do you want that, that bigger slice of watermelon, or do you want that one little grape?
Yeah.
Right. What's going to hydrate you? That's a grape. I never heard that before. So I'm glad you gave that. I'm going to use that. I'll give you a footnote next time I use that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Listen, there's no original ideas anymore. So, all anybody does is just hears something, puts their own little spin on it, and then brands it with their brand. And hey guys, look at this cool quote.
Look what I created.
Yeah.
It's so true. Oh man.
I love it. Awesome. Well, this has been incredible. As we wind down here, I've got 5 questions I ask all my guests. So we'll jump to those. Okay. First question, best advice you've gotten from a mentor?
It would have to be, when you learn something, you got to take action, because, we learn a lot of stuff. Like, don't take anthropology and take action, because you're not going to dig it in the backyard or whatever. But no, if you learn something, have a purpose behind what you're actually learning, and then put it into action. Because if you learn something, you're just the armchair quarterback that sits there and like, I'm going to tell you what to do. You should do this. And I'm like, yeah, you know what you should do? So, it's, right. You got to look at it that way. You take it. The point is, take action of what you learn, because that's really, really important, because there's nothing better than that action, because you learn when you take action. So that would be my first, level of advice. I
love that. And it's so true, because, even like me having a podcast, right? I've interviewed, it's a daily. So I've done this probably 180 somewhere in there. And I do sometimes struggle with telling people what they should be doing, just because I've interviewed 180 experts, but what matters more is the action that you take. And then you have the foundation, right? You've got the 3 businesses, they're successful. Now you've got that foundation. And obviously you started with the real estate, and then and did it go real estate, then coaching, then VA?
Real estate, coaching, VA, and
nice.
Always been real estate. So real estate investing and my VA company those are my main things. So nice. That's where my passion lies. And coaching, but I coach my kids in hockey. So
okay. Even better.
Yep. It's good stuff.
Sweet. Next question. What is it about your career that makes you feel like you're fulfilling your why?
You know what? It's actually giving back, whether it's somebody who works for you or helping somebody's business grow, right? It's always giving back. And I always say this, in ice hockey, I was always the assist guy. If I got 3 assists, for me, it's as good as getting 3 goals. I didn't give a crap if I was, I got player of the game or not. I knew behind the scenes, I was part of the reason why we won. So that's really how I always look at it. And in business, we talked about that. I don't give a crap if anyone even knows I own this company. And that's the truth. Like, I don't care at all. Keep my name out of it. As long as my business or team wins, that's all that counts.
Absolutely. I love that so much. Favorite non-real estate or investment related book?
I would say The Compound Effect, Darren Hardy.
That's on my
Very good.
list. I definitely need to read it.
Yep.
Love it. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Well, back in the day, if I was 6'5", I would have played a lot longer. So, but that's not a superpower. Good question. I would have to say, I think one of my superpowers now is positivity. I think it's something that I think everybody should have. I'm very fortunate that my parents gave that to me, and I think positivity is very important. It's not a superpower I wish I had. It's just something that I just want to let everyone know is if you could actually turn whatever kind of mindset you have into positivity. I mean, you can see right behind me, right? Positivity always wins. That's it's kind of funny I'm saying that, but I think that's really important. So I'll use that.
Absolutely. I love that so much. It's so true. And I do find myself being an internal optimist, but that's what's important, right? Because you really have two options in a scenario. You can be sad and let it get you down and you're not going to learn or, get anything out of it. Or you can, as cliche as it sounds, put the silver lining twist on it and realize, you mess up, fail. Like, I had a deal go south and I lost money and, but I learned a valuable lesson. Right. So to me, it's like, well, that was just an education there. And that's not free in this game.
Yep. Yeah, we all screw up. It is what it is, right?
Yep.
Don't beat yourself up.
Absolutely. Awesome. Last one. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you and learn more?
You could, send me an email. You can check out our website. Website is REVA Global, REVA Global.com. You could also send me an email, bob@revaglobal.com. We'll give you, we could send you the 100 task list. Preston can give it to you. So if people want to, look at 100 task lists to get different ideas, I'll send that over to you. But that's the easiest way. I mean, we're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all that kind of good stuff.
Awesome. We will link the website in the show notes. Bob, I cannot thank you enough. This has been awesome.
Awesome, Jonny. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching today's episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. Listen, I know it's cliche and you hear it all the time, but please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you know when the next video is coming out. Even though this is technically a daily podcast, it's coming out the next day. We have a ton of content coming your way. So please like and subscribe. It helps a ton. Leave comments. Would love to know what you guys think. And we will see you on the next one. Thanks so much.